Everyone to the Charter Revision Commission for January 30th, 2025. And can we have roll call, please, or go around the room?
Sheila Bailey,
February
Town Clerk.
13th.
What's that?
You said
Oh,
January
Jesus.
30th. So you're looking at the agenda.
I'm looking at my last
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Bob, for February 13th, 2025. And we'll go around the room for roll call.
Sheila Bailey, Town Clerk. Nikki Price.
Phil Dumont.
Mike Ludwig.
Anne Marie Nasuda.
Zach Sinoni.
Bob Crisati.
Lori Anderson.
Robert Anderson.
And Ken Nelson. I'd like to welcome a new commission member, Rob Anderson, to the commission due to the resignation of Seth Klaus. So Rob, if you have any questions or anything, we kind of agreed we're gonna just move forward and not keep going back on things
Yep, I'm doing that.
because of a time issue. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 30th, 2025.
So moved. And the second?
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any comments, corrections, or concerns? No? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, discussion and possible action regarding scheduled meeting dates. Looking at the pages that we still have to get through, I am suggesting we either meet every Thursday night or possibly extend the meetings to a later date. What's going on with me tonight? A later time. So, what do you guys think? Because at our current pace, we're not going to make it through it.
I'm good with every Thursday. I do too.
All right, everybody all in favor of every Thursday? Okay, so we will, I'll entertain a motion to change our schedule from every other Thursday to every Thursday. So moved. Second.
Sorry, just to be clear, to when's the end date? Because we had April 3rd, is that still the end date? Okay.
Yeah, motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, moving on. Discussion and possible action regarding proposed charter revisions. So we look at our sheet.
I think we walked up on section 8
6.
of chapter.
Page 6, I
chapter
think,
3.
we're still on power of initiative, correct?
I'll move the town manager.
I think we have one more item on tap power of initiative. The last thing that we talked about, I believe, is on your grid, the red line grid on page 5, the language about the referendum, correct? And so below that, we have 7E, power of initiative, and that is strictly kind of a housekeeping issue, changing the person who checks the petition names by practice has been the town clerk. Our charter says it's the registrars, but that's something they end up giving to me.
So what are you suggesting? No?
To change it to town clerk, and that's what's happening, that's what we do, so let's
Is
just
that
put it in the
under
charter.
E, a letter E?
Yes.
Yes.
7E. Okay, so this is more of a housekeeping item. Everybody in favor with it?
Yep.
Okay, so we're good with that. And 8, investigation. Add, the council may hire any appropriate personnel it deems necessary to conduct the investigation. By a majority vote.
So that would be in addition to what's in here. And that would go after the first sentence or at the end.
That was a counselor's suggestion, I believe. it looks like we would put it under C, add a C.
Is this the one that came after or is this before?
Pardon?
Is this a suggestion that came late?
No, this was in our
earlier,
initial
yeah.
ones.
I don't think we need to add it. We already have that.
It's already in.
It's by resolution and majority vote. It's already part of our policy and procedure. I don't know why we have to put it in the charter.
It is
I agree, and it's kind of like, where do you
Very
want it?
open-ended, isn't it?
Right, where do you want it? I mean,
Right.
and everything's done by a majority vote of the council
Right.
anyway, so,
You could already do that.
right. Everybody in favor of removing this?
Yes.
So just be, this is not in the charter currently. They wanted this to be added, right? Got it, okay. Got it.
So we would keep everything the same under section 8 for investigation, just leave it as is.
Yes,
Yeah.
as it's addressed in policy and procedures.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
All right.
Okay, so that's removed. Next, chapter 4, the town manager, appointment and removal. Writing, whose major field of study shall have been public administration or government, and who shall have a minimum of 5 years' experience. Change to, whose major field of study shall have been in public administration or a closely related field or equivalent combination of education and experience, and who shall have a minimum of 5 years' experience. Now, this I agree to because in today's current climate, it's very hard to find particular degrees for certain jobs. And if somebody doesn't have that one particular degree, but they got 30 years experience doing the job, you know, they went to the school of hard knocks and they can't qualify for the job. So we're trying to, you know, write things in the charter where the council doesn't have to, you know, make waivers and exceptions to what's in the charter. So that was one of the reasons for this. Questions?
Do we want to require a college degree at all? I don't, I'm just saying that out loud, but I
Well,
just also.
right, so, because I had said this, I'm okay, me personally, I would be okay, whose major field of study shall have been public administration. I don't think it has to be public administration. If you have somebody that's been running a, you know, Fortune 500 company for 20 years and they want to do 10 years of public service, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, typically, I mean, like the way that we have started writing some other job descriptions at the state, which I understand is not this, but just at some point of comparison, we'll say like degree in X or equivalent experience, and like one that gives us some flexibility, but two, like I'm around public servants every day that don't have a college degree that are in senior level positions because they've worked their way up, and I think that we should provide that opportunity for folks.
Well, that was the
Yeah.
That's how it's
wording.
worded.
Yeah.
That's,
'Cause-
well, this says you have to have been public administration.
Or closely related.
Or
Or,
closely.
so I mean, it covers all of it.
Correct.
The way it's, I think it's worded actually pretty
Yeah.
good.
Combination
Yeah.
of.
Or.
You guys
Yeah,
don't
I think,
think-
I think this is worded to what she is saying, it gives you that option, that you, I mean, you could have a preference at someone with a public administration degree, but if not, some, at least it gives you,
Equivalent
it
experience.
gives you at least some
something like-
equivalent of what you're looking for, so if someone's a lawyer or whatever, right?
Right.
I think you cover all the bases.
Yeah, I actually think it's worded pretty well, I don't know who wrote it, but it's pretty, actually, yeah, worded pretty well.
No, the only thing is this is gonna follow along with, you know, even that job description that we just had on the town manager. This with the ors, there's 3 ors there, and that to me hits all of the qualifications or gives somebody that option that they can qualify for this particular job. So I'm good.
All right, everybody good with
I can
that?
say, if you really want it, you could say, remove shall and say may. I don't know if
Yes.
that legally gives you even more flexibility, but I'm just saying, if folks are worried about it and they want to be able to have flexibility, the old shall versus may discussion, I'm just saying, you can do that. I'm not fine with the way it's worded, but if others, yeah.
I'm okay, remove the word shall and
Yes.
put may, because
I made
that word
I-
shall has come back
Correct.
to the
Yeah.
council for 25 years since I've been here. And
So it just gives flexibility.
Options
You do
anyway.
have to abide by
So-
shall, so
Right.
it's in a legal document.
So I mean, that may cover Laura's, kind of point. It gives you more flexibility in your hiring, yeah.
yeah, all right, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay. 1A, appointment and removal. At the time of appointment, said manager need not be a resident, shall reside in said town. Replace with candidates who are residents of the town of Enfield are strongly preferred. The manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office.
Mhm.
And that's because it was ruled, we can't force them to live in town, but we can strongly suggest it.
Suggested.
Yep. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Duties, shall recommend to the council such measures as he may deem necessary. Grammar, natural pronoun,
Oh,
Neutral.
neutral.
neutral. I was plowing all night, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Appointments. Question why treasurer is listed in the charter.
That was also I believe, a counselor suggestion. They questioned why, but we do have a treasurer. I think maybe the counselor wasn't aware that we do have someone that serves as treasurer. It's Hetherin.
It's who?
Hetherin, she works for John. Knows there's certain, I'm not well versed on the finance side of things, but I know that there are certain responsibilities in the finance office that have to be separated from the finance director to the treasurer by law.
Yep.
So we do have a treasurer, and maybe perhaps this counselor, because you never hear that word, didn't know it.
Right, okay, well, hopefully they're watching and they hear the explanation. Okay, everybody's good with that? I mean, it was just,
So not including it, right?
No.
Meaning just leave it alone.
Just keep it.
Planning and Zoning Commission, remove and add. The council shall act as the planning and zoning authority for the town. I don't know who put this there.
Well,
Exactly.
actually, so to that point, Mr. Mayor, it says planning and zoning authority of the town, which is not permitted under law. It would be the planning authority of the town. So this is an error in what I proposed.
So you wanna, to start, you wanna remove the zoning authority, the zoning, and just leave it planning.
Yeah, that was the proposal I had.
Okay. And for the record, Tom just came in.
It's recorded.
So remove and add, the council shall act as the planning authority of the town. Thoughts?
Do you want to maybe give us just a reminder about the intent?
Right.
Yes,
Sorry.
I'd be happy to. So the intent is, I think, one of the most significant roles of the town council is to move forward the economic development of the town. And I think there has been too many instances in which members of the planning commission have just not been in lockstep with the will of the council. And I think that it has really impeded our ability as a town to push for economic development at the rate of some other communities. And I had referenced the town that does do this is West Hartford, and I think they are a good example of effective planning and development. They have significant economic development in their town, and elected officials, the people, have the authority to choose individuals that make those decisions. Right now, we only appoint, and then sometimes the commission does things that are just totally out of step with the council's desires. I do recognize it is a significant shift in Workville. So that is a valid concern.
So planning and zoning wouldn't exist, it would just be zoning?
Yes.
Well, I mean, other than the regulations, really, what does planning and zoning do? And, you know, I understand what you're saying, Zach, and I kind of agree with you, because when planning and zoning turned around and changed an entire area of Enfield from R44 to R88, you know, the cost of construction doubled. The roads, sidewalks, infrastructure, everything is double for the town with the same one house tax. So the town is getting half of what they would have. And I would have thought the better approach would have been, you could do an R44, but your open space must be larger, undeveloped, which would minimize the infrastructure that the town ultimately is responsible 20 years from now. Unfortunately, nobody thinks about 20 years from now. And
So I think that's a great point, Mr. Mayor, and I think to that end, with that, and I hadn't even considered what you had just brought up, the level of authority that they have, is that necessarily something we want out of hands of essentially the public having the will to vote people out or vote people in? If the public doesn't have a say in that matter, is that productive for the town? And if the council is making financial decisions that are being undermined by the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think that's a challenge.
so to say that the public doesn't have a say, maybe I'm not following you, because for planning and zoning to change regulations requires a public hearing. And the council would do the same thing. Now, the voter can vote in and out counselors, but those counselors they vote in and out zoning officials. So ultimately, they are people for the people. So, other than the planning side of and it's always, having been chairman on planning and zoning, it's always bothered me that the town council has less than no, they cannot get involved with ideas to the point they're nervous about going to the public hearing when it comes to zone change, regulation changes and stuff like that. And, you know, that's a huge line that can't be crossed in this town. And the two bodies really should be working together for what is the future of Enfield? I mean, you know, what is the council's, you know, forecast for trying to grow the grand list so they don't have to raise taxes? Or, you know, designating certain areas as, you know, undeveloped open space, or, you know, in Mike's case, creating an actual farm regulation or a farm zone, because that's the biggest misconception that the whole country has. Well, they were zoned farm when I bought my house. There is no such thing as a farm zoning. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of it's industrial land. And 20 years later, boom, you have Agumar in their backyard.
Absolutely agree.
So, I mean,
Can I interject
Sure.
one thing? I tried to do, on some of these issues that came up, a little bit of research from other towns or whatever, and I have West Hartford's charter, and it specifically says, Chapter C, zoning
Yes.
will be the zoning authority of the
Yes,
town.
and then they have a
And
planning
we said
commission.
planning here.
They have a planning commission.
so
They have a planning commission.
you
It
got
says the town
yeah.
council shall be the zoning
And
authority
they
of
have a
the town.
planning commission.
And they have a planning.
So they're
commission.
zoning, so to Ken's
So
point,
it sounded like we said that.
Right, you gave me,
I gave
we
it the
kept
switch.
planning and got rid of zoning, and we
Right.
need to get rid of planning and keep zoning.
yeah, so the zoning, if the council were to be the zoning authority, for instance, in West Hartford, when they have major redevelopment projects, they're able to move those through a lot faster because they have the ability to change the zoning. They don't have to go through the same procedures that we do, in which the town of Enfield has to go before our own planning and zoning commission and could potentially have it voted down for whatever reason. The council would have that authority, and I think it moves economic development faster, in my opinion. And it's not every instance.
But, so, council has a lot on their plate now. And, you know, there's a lot to zoning that unless you've served on zoning, you're not aware. I mean, you can't do spot zoning, you know, stuff like that. And this is where if you don't know, yeah, okay, let's plop that right there. And it's, you can't, it's illegal to do. And there's reasons for that, and that's to protect what's around it. So, I don't know. I think this is a huge issue. And I don't think this is the right room, because I don't think there's enough people in the room that understand the full extent of the council role and the full extent of zoning. Go ahead. Bill.
Yeah, Ken, the Planning and Zoning Commission is pretty much run under state statutes. And so if their charge is that and going along with, you know, what our charge as a council member and what their charge is everything that basically is dictating them as state statute.
No, that's not correct. The parts of it, yeah, just like
I'm not
us.
saying everything
Yeah.
is, but a good maybe not even a good majority of it, but, you know, a lot of decisions are made because of state statutes are there, you know? So, I mean, this is a tough thing to.
Well, it's state statute and what's it called? Past law, past cases,
Case law.
case law,
Yeah.
you know, which they lose and is ruled against us. Spot zoning, this is what I mean by, I think it's a bigger issue than this room.
Yeah, so.
And, you know, so, I mean, I don't disagree with it, Zach, but I think this we would spend some serious time on. If you'd like to, and if the committee's okay with it, we can put an asterisk by it. We can, towards the end, once we get through everything else, we can maybe get the town planner to come in, planning and zoning, and sit with us, go over the different questions that we have and stuff like that. But we can't do that tonight.
I think
So
it's very fair.
is everybody okay with,
Yep.
we're just gonna put a hold on this one? Go ahead, Phil.
Just a general question,
Sure.
though. You know, back when this charter was established, the 60s were an amazing time. This town was exploding, kids, population. And they had a master plan. Do we have anything, should it be on a charter, or is there a master plan that the planning and zoning is in marching with the economic director in town? Because the key to everything is driving the economic base. Makes the budgets a lot easier to do.
We have a plan of conservation and development, but it's not a master plan. For instance, there are some communities, oftentimes in other states, and for instance, if they did not follow that master plan, there's a legal recourse for it. Whereas the plan of conservation and development is more of a suggestive guide point of where we can go, and they can choose whether to adopt those things or not.
I'm kind of thinking a master plan with a suggestive basis, not a.
Well, master plan is it's like a legal document. It has to be.
Something that needs to be revisited every so often.
You're 100% right, Phil, but unfortunately, Enfield is maxed out. So most of what we're doing now is redevelopment. You know, the mall, for example, you know, in the 70s, oh, that was gonna be the savior. Here we are 50 years later and we're trying to redevelop the mall area, and yet Thompsonville is still. So we do have, I would say, I wouldn't call it a master plan, but a master plan of what the vision of Thompsonville will be with the train station and future development, mixed use projects and stuff like that. They have that, but they've been working on that for 30 years. So,
Right.
go ahead, Mike.
Sheila, I don't know, this is not a fair question. If actually the council took over some of that, is there, from a state statute perspective, more authority to be able, again, one of the issues, whether it's a planning and zoning or the council, is we've been dealing with issues, the state has sort of taken away local control on some issues, right, which has been frustrating. Is it harder if the governing body of the town actually is in charge of some of this from a state stat, you know what I mean?
I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with plannings or zoning.
I'm sure the state probably supersedes it, but I'm just curious, maybe it falls under a different realm of a statute where it's not as easy for them to put solar fields anywhere they want or as many, you know.
I don't think that would change based upon the governing body, but probably that might be I think if the commission has the planner come in and speak, and the next step before a decision's made might be to bring in the town attorney and ask them to come to the meeting, with a heads up, so they can do their research before coming in, because I think that's a bigger issue than I could ever answer.
No, yeah, I know, I know.
So we might be able to simplify this. What if the charter says any zone change granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission must be approved by the town council? Simple. If somebody's coming in for a particular zone change, Planning and Zoning votes in favor of it, then it comes to the council for their blessing. It's just like the state gives us the authority for when the ADUs came and the amount of affordable housing, that was both bodies had a say on that, not just one or the other. And it worked. I mean, so.
I like that idea. If we can potentially see if there's language in other towns where that would happen. My one potential reservation is if you're adding an additional step, if that would slow down the process.
Yeah, like that, and I mean, not right or wrong, I'm sort of agnostic on this, but like if I'm thinking backwards, right? Like it sounds like my problem is we can't move efficiently enough on some economic development things that we would like to move on. And so, and also if it sounds like that there is something in state law, which I'm not super familiar with, that makes town councilors hesitant from participating, like can we break through some of those barriers? I don't exactly know what that is, but I would be hesitant to add another step too. I mean, but like, cause like not for nothing, I agree. You vote for your town councilors, they appoint people, like you should trust the people who vote. So I don't know that I'd want to add an extra step, but that's also what I do all day at work, delete. So.
I think it's worth exploring personally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I think.
All right, so we're gonna put an asterisk by this and we'll come back to it.
Well, that's a good question.
Everybody's good with that? Mhm. Moving on, Board of Assessment Appeals. Currently, it says Board of Assessment Appeals, consisting of 3 electors who shall be full members of the board for terms of 3 years, and 2 electors who shall be alternate members of the board for terms of 3 years. So they want to add 2 elector members as alternates.
So 4 or 5, right?
Total 5, yeah.
Was this a departmental suggestion? Okay.
So this is, it would still be a 3-member board, they would just have 2 alternates, so that when there are hearings and someone cannot make meetings, they have people to fill in.
Would it also be filling in the event that they needed to recuse themselves from a vote?
Yes.
You know what, I don't have a problem with this, but I just think having 2 electors, you have a hard time finding people to serve on the board. And maybe what we should do is just do 1 elector for now and see how that works out, or if there's a problem, then.
You're locked in for 10 years, whatever we put in here.
That's true too, that's true too. But I'm just looking at it as getting somebody to do 2.
I think it's the 2 positions, we have positions now where we don't have them filled.
That's what I'm saying.
So this two would give you the option of 2. I've never seen a board with only one alternate.
Okay.
I believe,
Okay.
I don't know for a
Okay.
fact, but I believe it's got something to do with my minority representation, so
Yeah.
you can have a DNR.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then.
And are they doing this just to satisfy possibly not having a quorum? Is that what the concern
I
is?
think the concern is a quorum, and in cases where someone might have an interest in what's being voted on, that they can recuse themselves.
A quorum. Right.
Which an alternate may have too, so you never.
Yeah.
Right,
that's true,
right.
too.
What do you guys think?
I think it simplifies it.
Sheila, this was a staff suggestion?
It was.
You know, I mean, you look at the verbiage that's in here now in regard to, 2 regular members for a term of 2 years, 3 regular members for a term of 4 years.
Yeah,
I
it's all over
mean,
the
come on,
Oh,
this is, I mean.
It's like a wire diagram.
This simplifies it.
no.
I think that was when they
stay
initially,
consisting of.
So you're taking away the
Who
staggeredness
shall
of
be
that.
full members.
Right, yes.
of the
I
board
think
for
that,
a
so
term.
they are still 3 members. I wish I had my iPad on me. You want to look up our
I don't have the.
our officials list, but I believe they are currently staggered. So what they
Yes.
did when they set it up, that's how they staggered it. They
Right.
are 3-year terms.
3, yeah.
And now they're every 3, but
Someone's
that's
coming
how
on,
they
someone's
set up the
going off.
staggering. Because when you set up a staggering, when the board starts, you've got to have just 1 year, 1 2 years, 1 3 years in order to start that staggering. So
Yeah.
that part would,
You go away. is what
yeah,
we're
it's
proposing.
not needed any longer because the
But-
staggered terms are already established.
But I agree with the staggered terms.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay.
I'm just saying this would simplify it.
Yeah. So would we remove that? So this would be the total language, consisting of 3 electors who shall be full members of the board for a term of 3 years, and 2 electors who shall be alternate members of the board for the term of 3 years.
You still have to add the staggered language though if you want. I thought you just, you wanted that.
They're already staggered.
They are already staggered. See, at the end, it says annually thereafter, the council shall appoint 1 member to succeed each, and that's for the 3-year term. So that kind of takes care of the fact. I just don't know if you would want to get rid of that language because it shows how the board was established as a staggered board. Where right now we've got council, it's not staggered, so this gives the history of how it was established that way. I'm
Right,
not
is
sure
there
I
a
want to
way,
get
is
rid
there a
of
way
it.
to add the language? I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So can someone read to me where this would be
Right.
taking place? I know it's right here. I'm saying which part of it
Where would it be
are we
inserted?
transplanting?
Consisting of 3 electors for terms of 3 years. That gets replaced with.
All the way to the end
So
of the
you're
year?
really just adding right after that, 3 electors for terms of 3 years.
Sheila, wouldn't we just need to add, somewhere, just 2 electors?
And you're just adding in 2 electors.
You don't need that first part of the sentence.
Right,
Yeah.
and 2 electors who shall be alternate members
Right, for
of
a
the
term of
board
3
for
years.
terms of 3 years.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think we
Yes,
just add that language.
yes.
Do we wanna also, and I like simple, but to be fair, do we want of different parties?
Is that already,
That is by law anyway because of minority representation laws.
Right,
Oh, you mean your 2 alternates? Yes. You would have to say that because minority rep doesn't kick in until 3. Doesn't, 2,
We're
2.
going to put an independent on there.
Geez, all this stuff you know.
I think that's I was thinking too, but I think you just say 2 separate
No,
parties.
one,
You
we
don't
have the
to
word
say-
somewhere else in
Yeah.
one of our other ones where not more than 1 can be of the
Yeah.
same party. So it could be a
Yeah.
U, could be a
Right.
D, could be
right,
an
that's
R.
why I didn't say
Yeah.
D or R, I just
Right.
said, okay. So we all agree with that too?
Yes.
So we're gonna add,
Because I mean, you could end up skewing that
Oh,
BAA
yeah.
real bad.
Okay, well, we don't have that much fun tonight.
What's that?
Sorry. I can't.
All right, Sheila, you're good with that? Lorna? You're good? Okay, we're all in favor with the way it's written now? Thank you. 8A and B, Department of Finance, Tax Collector. Adjust all references to the tax collector and change to Collector of Revenue. I think this is a housekeeping item.
That's housekeeping.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
8C, Department of Finance, accept the Board of Education and if they want to remove it. 8C. So I'm assuming this is a housekeeping.
No, I think that was a counselor's suggestion, if I remember correctly.
I believe it was, yeah.
I'm just trying to find where it is.
8C.
Right.
Sheila, who is the purchasing agent for the town of Enfield, or is it individual department heads?
Each individual department purchases, but there's a pretty robust purchasing procedure, approval procedure.
So if we were to remove the Board of Education, they would be subject to those procedures, but who would the department head be, the superintendent of schools?
Just, let me see. I'm not. Oh, because I think, I hate to speak for a counselor who made a suggestion because they didn't come with explanations or clarifications. But I believe they're trying to remove, their intent is to make the Board of Education have to follow the same procedures with our finance department
Okay.
instead of their finance department. But I don't want to speak for someone,
But can they legally do it?
that's.
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Because the Board of Education is their own separate
that would be the
animal,
question.
meaning
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the answer to that might be no, I think that might be legal.
because the Board of Education has a lot of say, state laws and state power.
That could be something that we invite the finance director to answer
I guess-
because he certainly would know.
My question would be if the Board of Education wanted to be part of the purchasing, to leverage their purchasing power, wouldn't it make sense? to get more strength in buying more of something rather than being a splinter. But I know the Board of Ed probably has to make an agreement to do something like that, but you're working together to get your, and they actually, I think some of the communities are doing that now, across communities, sometimes leveraging.
Regionalization
Yeah.
and purchasing.
Well, yeah, I don't want to go
Yeah.
crazy with that, but.
Could we get like an opinion or a legal opinion on this?
Do you want a legal opinion or do you want to have the
Or from-
finance
from
director?
finance, From
Can I
John
add?
Wilcox.
Mike first.
And I'm very sorry, because back to the collector of revenue, does that jive with the job description, Sheila? Can we check?
That's, I think, why
Okay.
it was a housekeeping issue because
All right,
that's
so it's
what.
house kit, all right,
It's
that's all.
assessor, collector of revenue.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure. And then you agree, I think the issue here too is I think we have to check state, there's some state rules too. Again, unfortunately, I hear you, but unfortunately, the board doesn't have to follow the generally accepted accounting principles. That's a state issue, not us. And we do follow the generally accepted, for the most part, the generally accepted accounting principles. I agree. I think I think they're trying to do some more of that based on what they just went through. Not sure, I think that's what can we force them to do that
So,
by charter, I think. That's what this would sort of do, I think. Which is fine, if we have the legal diligence, I think everyone should follow in a public realm, should follow the generally accepted accounting principles.
but I think their point is, it's to stop the board from possibly overspending within their budget. But again, the town is so tied up when whatever the board does, they have a meeting in our building, now the town can get sued. They overspend, it's up to the town to bail them out. So they know if we were in charge of their purchasing only, we still don't know where their spent money's coming in, at how much it's coming in, what their costs are going to be. These are unknowns that the board doesn't even know. So, I mean, okay? So it's tough because how do you do a budget like that? And I don't know that I'd want to get the town any more involved.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of like, let's just say office supplies, as an example. Both parties have a mutual, if they get savings, they're both taking their savings. You're splintering POs by the town to the board, but you agreed on the price with the vendor. So you're both getting savings. Now, each party's got to say, do I have the budget for this? That's a different responsibility.
So,
I need to buy these items.
But I don't think there's anything precluding us from doing,
well, I'm sure we do that now. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure the
like-
town of Enfield has, a Staples
Yeah.
account.
Right.
And everybody orders through it, and when the bill comes in, it goes and finance, because we do pay most of the Board of Ed's bills. You know, it just gets credited to either side. So I don't think they have their own separate, because the bottom line is the town of Enfield pays all bills. So, Zach, sorry.
So just a few points. On top of getting an opinion from the finance department, I would appreciate if potentially we could hear the Board of Education's thoughts on the matter, or staff from the board. But I do agree, because I don't know if this has to be accomplished by requiring them to be a purchasing agent. I think that could be done under just general practices or an MOU for the purchasing of materials. And I do think there are potentially legal implications for it, because also the probate court is not included in here.
I can't imagine probate has a
Something
lot.
makes me feel with it being the probate court and the Board of Education, that something with state statute would make that determination, and why those two are listed here.
I'm only thinking, keep the door open that both parties mutually would want that, because they both benefit.
Well, we do that with IT, we do it merging buildings and grounds. So, you know, toilet paper, all of that stuff
Right.
all comes through us.
So I think this is in here because they're Board of Ed and probate court, their own separate entity.
Yes.
And I think that was the main reason why, except for them. But I think in today's realm, if we're looking at supplies, materials, and equipment, would it come under the town?
Right.
You know,
Right.
but I think, you know, based on the board and the probate as being, and probate being separate, that's why I think it was originally put in this, you know, into the charter like that.
I mean, like, we share,
So I don't know if we can change it or not.
Well, I think you also, it would give the town more control over the purchases that the board makes. And the statute's pretty clear, once we give them their budget, they can do whatever they want with it. I personally am not comfortable moving any more of the board's responsibilities onto the town side. If there is a consensus to go farther and get a legal opinion and stuff like that, but we don't need one. If we have consensus, nobody agrees, we don't need the legal opinion. So what are you guys thinking?
I think you just leave it how it is.
Bob?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think.
Laura?
I would leave it. I'm conflicted, but that's conversation for a glass of wine, but I would leave it how it is.
Mike?
Can't argue with Laura after that. I agree with her on this one.
Tom?
You know, I'm more curious than anything whether or not I was the one who put this idea in. Because it's different than what I submitted. So that's why I was wondering if somebody else made it this strong. I don't mind disclosing if you think this is my idea.
Oh, I didn't bring that folder.
Okay, because.
But it should be in your backup, on the counselor's suggestions. I don't believe it was yours, but that's pulling from my memory and that's
Okay,
saying a lot.
when we started, you know, when we first started and we were going through what are your ideas for the charter, this is one of the things that I addressed when we talked about it that night. But I wasn't that strong about saying it should be removed. I was saying, I'm more where you were coming from. I thought there would be efficiencies, possibly savings, by having it be under one purchasing agent. I wasn't necessarily thinking of the control concept, that the town council would have more control by doing this. I thought it was an efficiency play. So if that's the idea, is someone saying, no, that's not gonna happen? If we had one purchasing agent, there wouldn't be efficiency, savings, coordination, better than letting people do things on their own?
So I think no matter how, I mean, and some of this would have to be a legal opinion. I, generally speaking, I'm all for centralized purchasing for like all of the reasons you talked about. COGS are starting to do it and everything, right? So very reasonable. So saying that though, I will say, I think that there's a difference between saying this is a great opportunity. I would be happy to encourage that people look for those opportunities in the charter. Would people be open to that? But I would have, in something this long-standing, I wouldn't necessarily want to mandate that type of organizational change, because there's also a lot that like may go into that. Like we were talking about changing staffing, getting legal opinions about the board being its own entity. And having been through like a couple different like centralizations, for lack of a better term, sometimes we get really general statements like this, or like an executive order that then gets like a town into a place where they're trying to fulfill something that as they start going down that path, just like doesn't work, or they find some kinks, right? Like, I would be very happy to say, like, we encourage the town to leverage purchasing something, but I don't like documents that are this long-standing to tie us down to those types of mandates in the off chance we stumble along the way.
It was very helpful. I'm on board with pass.
Bill?
I'm wondering if at the end of this section, we put something like, if the Board of Education and probate court opt to gain the benefit of savings and efficiencies with purchasing, they can leverage their purchasing power through the purchasing agent. But it doesn't really say the council or anybody else gets any more power. All they're saying, you get the best price for us and save us some money. But it gives them a door to open to have an agreement with them, even though it's a separate entity.
And now you've got to minimize it. The Board of Ed is a separate department within the town, no different than DPW, just like the DOT in the state. It all links through one finance department. So it's one account, the town of Enfield, but which branch is it? You know, so it would be DPW, it'd be the town manager, it'd be the Board of Education. And it's through that one account for the purchasing power. I don't know that it's everything that we have, but it's quite a bit. I mean, Sheila doesn't have her own Staples account, and John's got 50 different Staple accounts up there that he's got to pay.
But maybe we don't need to put it in here, but I would say that if those parties got together and negotiated with, say, a Staples on unit pricing for certain kinds of supplies, they could leverage it there without any, because they're going to all issue separate POs to that entity.
Purchasing policy.
Purchasing power and unit pricing together rather than separate, because when you're separate, you don't get good pricing.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It's one account with 20 departments on it. So I would hope John Wilcox or whoever, you know, opens or manages those accounts is, you know, saying, look, we bought 50 pallets of paper off of you.
Right.
You know, we want a better deal, or we're going to WB Mason. Right. So I mean.
But another one probably applies to is copying machines. Is there the same pricing across the town with the Board of Ed as well? Because the schools are significant, I would assume.
But we share some of those materials already for like information technology. The web interfaces are shared.
Right, that's right. Yeah, and yes.
And like COGS can procure these things, like you can piggyback off of state master contracts, the state can, like, so there's a lot of opportunity to do this. I think that exists within state law at least already.
100% agree with you, Phil.
Right.
But on a lot of things, it's not. Like the phone systems, security systems, camera systems. The town's on one, the board's on another, and we're running into those issues now. And you're 100% right, but I think the problem is over so many years, you know, it's like even the laptops, MacBook Pros, iPads, you know, everybody, the board's doing their own thing, the town's doing their own thing, and you know, this is what we want for the kids and the towns, and it gets really, and that's just,
Well, like something like that, but I'm sure Apple has a program for the schools, not for the town.
Right, exactly.
Well, again, I think they're purchased through the town's IT, but the board pays for their own hardware out of their budget. All the behind the scenes things for IT, the town pays for it all. But the board is actually responsible to write the check. So they would say to our IT, we're buying 500 iPads.
Right.
Or MacBook Pros or what, and the town has to write the check for it, but it's a credit towards their budget.
Right.
But as far as the operating systems and stuff like that, that's all on us.
So section D, I think solves, it says nothing herein contained shall be construed to prevent the town purchasing agent from serving to the extent requested as the purchasing
Right,
agent for the Board of Education or Public.
It's already in there, just a little farther down.
Yeah.
So I did save some time.
Maybe it's a definite.
Okay, so everybody's okay with removing that?
Yep.
Okay. 8D, Department of Finance expenditures of 15,000 increased to 25,000 to reflect the state equivalent level. So is that a internal?
That was a staff suggestion. I only know my staff suggestions. The others just came, I told you all at the beginning as a block from.
So my concern with that is increase to 25,000 to reflect the state equivalent level. Well, the state's budget's 100 times what the town's is. So how can you compare?
I agree, I like it where it is,
You-
sorry,
okay.
yeah, I agree.
All right, I thought I was alone on this.
No,
one.
I agree with you. And honestly, the other thing too, if you read through it, the council, so from efficiencies, the council can waive a bid and they do it in public. So I mean, that, again, what's going on in the country, the fact that the taxpayer gets that extra, a public vote that the council has to, I think that at that level, 15 grand, and I agree with Ken, we're not the state, we're a smaller purchaser, and it's another check for the taxpayer that I think is important. I don't think we should change it.
I believe the 15,000 is the competitive bid requirement level.
Right. Yep. But again, if we say, again, we're going with the same vendor, okay, but we still gotta have a public vote. And I think at that level, it's good, so it's, it's not like you start going up and next thing you know, it's 100 grand and we're just picking the same vendor every time we go out without going out to bid.
And keeping it at 15,000, this is where the good old boy club comes in. If I can get this job to you, bid $24,900, I can give it to my buddy,
Right.
and that gets real risky.
Agreed.
So
I agree.
everybody in favor, we're gonna delete that?
Just for the weirdness, I'm abstaining. That's all. I don't have a problem, but I also don't have, anyway.
That's because you want more at the state than 25.
Well, I mean, that's a different discussion. I'm gonna need 2 wines for that. But I like getting stuff done.
So we
All right.
agreed to keep as is.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we could agree with that too.
9A, Public Works. Who shall be professionally qualified by education and experience? Grammar.
Oh.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
What's it gonna change to?
Nothing practical, it's
I'm
just.
trying to figure out
Me
where
too,
it
yeah,
was.
I'm too, that's what.
9A.
Shall be,
Who shall be
who shall be a
A.
professionally qualified by, yeah, okay.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Next, department.
No, I'm not. That's what it says now.
No, it says, remove, Director of Public Works, who shall be a professionally qualified by education and experience. I don't think the A belongs there.
Yeah, so what are you gonna change it to?
Remove the A.
Oh.
It's just a grammar.
Oh, wait, no, I disagree.
It was so simple, Tom, you couldn't say it.
Well, I guess I like more definition, qualified by education, what education and what experience? I mean, that's kind of open door, right? What education is public works? Is there a bachelor's degree in public works?
No, it's the same thing as a manager, right?
I don't know what that means.
Well, that's why I think
Or pertinent education?
that's why they're leaving it open-ended, professionally qualified with education and experience. It doesn't
Where-
specify the type of education or experience.
Because of Laura's example of
Same thing with town manager.
Right.
can
Well,
work his
and,
way up.
Assistant
And that certainly
DPW
happens in
directors.
this department.
Because the language for the job description was so specific, we didn't get anybody.
No,
I mean, it's $100,000 a year job.
I can think of a lot of guys in that group that their school was hard knocks, it was on the job and they're good at it.
Right, so we don't wanna say you need a bachelor's in X or Y, when you got 50 years in the department, you know it better than anybody who came out of college, so. Everybody's good with that?
Well, to Phil's point though, because it says education and experience, so should it just be?
And or.
And or?
experience.
And
Okay.
So that gives, I think, Phil, that actually
Yeah,
answers your
that gives you
concern.
the
Yeah.
latitude on it, yeah.
All right, you got added the or?
Yep.
What's another one?
Just thinking, I'm great.
All set, Sheila? Okay. Next, 10, Department of Public Safety. Department of Public Safety's split into 3 departments: Police Department, Fire Department, Department of Emergency Medical Services. Who requested this?
This was a staff suggestion. I can only assume it was the chief of police, but I don't know that because I did not see who initiated all the staff suggestions.
So if I recall, Mr. Mayor, I remember we had some pretty significant discussions on this and we wanted to speak to public safety officials, correct?
I do recall that.
Yeah, before I made a decision on this, I would definitely, that's why I'm asking Zach. I mean, if it didn't come from the chief, I would be very hard pressed to do this.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Bob.
yeah, I mean, when you look down through, you know, A, B, C, D, and it's already in here, kind of breaks it down. You know, you have Division of Police, that's the police department. Division of Fire is your fire department. You know, I mean, I don't know how else they want to break it down, you know? You have, Division of EMS already stated in here, Division of Emergency.
So
Management.
if I can expand upon
You
that, Bob, so currently, because we have the public safety department, in theory, the director of public safety is the town manager, and so some of the questions where we would be removing the town manager's, say, oversight here, because there's multiple suggestions that involve the director of public safety, who is currently the town manager, so we'd be empowering the police chief with powers he currently does not have.
Yeah. I was gonna ask that question, who's the director of public safety? You just answered town manager. But I was
Says the
thinking,
director
like
of
the
public
county-
safety shall be responsible to the town manager.
Yep. And
But I was thinking
currently,
like,
it's the town manager.
like the council and the mayor, who serves as the head, if you will, wouldn't the chief of police serve as the head of public safety
No,
and then to the town manager?
no.
No?
The chief of police has no more authority than the chief of EMS or the chief of the fire departments. Somebody's got to be above them. And the problem is, the public safety director really has zero authority over the fire departments in this town.
Right.
It's more just EMS and the police. And the town manager appoints the public safety director, if I'm correct, right, Bob?
Yes.
Because sometimes they've appointed themselves and acted, and other times they've actually appointed somebody.
Yeah, the town manager has to appoint.
Well, is it has to or can? Because unless we're appointing ourselves.
Well, the town manager could serve as the director of public safety, but he appoints.
Right, so and this is where I want to be very careful because,
Oh, it says in here, the director of public safety shall be responsible to the town manager, and then it goes on, and then it says the division head shall consult with the director on all matters. In the event that the director of public safety has not been appointed or is temporarily absent or disabled, the town manager shall serve as the director of
the
public
way
safety.
out here works. So,
Did you hear that? So it says,
Yes.
if one hadn't been appointed, then the town manager is the director of public safety.
Right, so I know there was some conversations in the past, and it doesn't matter when in the past, whether it was this year or 20 years ago, about the police chief becoming the public safety director. I am dead set against that. I think our police department as a whole needs oversight. And that oversight should be an independent person, not involved within the department. Enfield has one of the best reputations in the country, but look at the departments throughout the country that do have corruption with no oversight, and the residents are screaming because they're untouchable. And that's why this, to me, is, I want to know who requested it, and they really need a good explanation of why they asked for it. I would want to hear from the town manager, who would be giving up the authority, because ultimately he reports to us. So if the public safety director is untouchable by the town manager, the whole thing, I don't like messing.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Right, I mean, we do have residents even talking about a police oversight committee in this town, so.
I think if we skip ahead to the next,
Yeah,
it
I was
says
just gonna say that.
disband director of public safety, and then lift the chiefs, all the chiefs, to the director level. So it's still maintaining the even playing field for EMS, police chief, fire chief.
See right here, number 10, Department of Public Safety shall appoint and also may remove the animal control, never mind. I thought it was public safety.
On the next page, there's more. Have been functioning as a director, just a restructuring of the chain of command.
Jesus. So do we want to get the chief and the town manager in on these?
I think so.
I think that's.
Yeah, you got, it's up to, I agree, I don't wanna change it. I don't need it, because
Yeah.
all I'm just saying is, there needs to be that level, to your point, the council manager form of government. If we remove the ability of the manager, whoever that is, to have that authority, it gets a little gray when it comes to the things that are going on. I think the way it works now works very well. Then that manager is held authority to the council. So you still have the elected body on equal level with the manager or the public safety director. We start divvying it down to the chief of police. They got enough to worry about, and now you make them, then you bring even the political aspect into it even more. Because if that's the case, then the chief needs to be directly responsible to the council now. So then we have to change everything, because that's the key here for people to understand. The way it's set up, the manager, I think I heard Ken say, he's right, is responsible to us. We divvy out that responsibility to somebody, whoever it may be, chief of police, fire chief, whoever, EMS chief. Well, now that has to be, they have to have that same direct line accountability to the council. And currently, we don't hire those positions, we hire the manager. So I think that changes the way our government works. I think this is actually bigger than what it shows on the page. That's just my opinion. And I don't need to have them brought in. I think,
All right,
for me, I'm good where we're at.
Zach.
So I agree that when I had originally brought up concerns about this when we discussed that early on, I think it does make some significant changes, especially when you're looking at 10A and they talk about Director of Public Safety approval for suspensions. Town manager has some authority over that, we'd be removing it. However, if it was a staff recommendation, which I believe you had stated it was, it would be my assumption it came from the chief of police, not that we should
I
adopt
think
it.
this whole section did, but
So
like I
if
said,
it came
that's
from
what
the
I'm
chief of
assuming,
police,
I don't know.
I have a lot of faith in our police chief, and I would give him the benefit of the doubt to come here to explain and answer questions. Even if it may not alter our decision, I think it would be beneficial to have his insight.
Understood. Anne Marie.
Sorry if this is gonna sound like a silly question, but the Department of Public Safety, person in charge, is that now today the town manager?
Yes.
So in looking at that, it seems strange, the language, because it doesn't state under the town manager that he is the Department of Public Safety that I could see. And then the language goes on and says, in the event of the Director of Public Safety has not been appointed or temporarily absent, then the town manager is going to then be the director.
Right.
So it sounds like it's saying like, you're the director, and then if you're not there, you're the person doing it. Am I
Well, the
reading this
town
wrong?
manager can appoint anybody he wants as the
Right.
public safety director. In this case, the town manager
Is,
appointed themselves.
okay,
So they did make an official appointment
Okay.
of themselves.
okay, that's the part I missed, that,
Who's public safety director under Ellen? Ellen? Yeah,
I think,
okay.
so
Then
Ellen appointed.
that was the part of the equation that I didn't get. So
And the
thank
other
you.
key there, Emery, I think too, is that, so that position then would now have to be part of the budget, it would have to be part of a, we would have to, even though we may not hire the individual.
You have to then pay
We
that
have to,
person.
we have to allocate the money for the
Yes.
hiring of the individual,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I think
And
that's
thank you.
right. That's the other
That
thing
made
is
sense
that,
to me, because I just didn't get it, because I
Yeah.
was like, that person's acting in that capacity.
right,
I couldn't put the connection together on that, and, okay, thank you.
So
That makes
what
sense.
is the consensus in the room? Is the consensus in the room to, well, let's go on 10, splitting the 3 departments.
I like the current language, I don't see the point of
I
this
think
one.
they're there. In fact, I think they're even
Open
more
up this can
descriptive.
of worms.
I'd like to hear from him. If it was him, I'd like to hear from him why, but.
Yeah, it's, I'm trying to remember, were the suggestions supposed to be anonymous? Were the suggestions, the ideas, supposed to be anonymous?
I wasn't part of that conversation. It was the intern that was, on Ellen's
Yeah.
direction that was gathering all the staff suggestions. So I don't know if it was intentionally anonymous or that's just what happened when he left and I took it over.
Right, they're not anonymous. I mean, certain residents like to attack, a person because they brought up an idea. That's all these are, is ideas. So everybody knows who submitted everything. The reason I had it removed from this room is because I don't want a decision based on a bias. And, it really shouldn't matter why the person asked. But in this case,
It does.
before we make a change,
Yeah.
you need to explain why you want it. Now, I can honestly say I've heard 2 different sides of a lot of these issues, one for, one against. And so I think the people should be in the room. And, I haven't heard why we would split into 3 departments because technically they're independent departments now because we have 0 say over the fire departments. I mean, nothing.
I'm struggling with not hearing from, I think that's.
No, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
that's what I'm,
I'm
yeah.
struggling, I would vote, that would be our next step.
Zach.
so the reason the fire departments is in here is because the town has reserved the right in the event that there was no fire districts. We reserve the right to establish our own fire department.
Correct.
So that was why,
That's why it's in here,
yes.
yeah.
So,
Who said that? Who said it?
so on number 10, because we've got to clarify what we're going to ask of these people. Are we okay to split into 3 departments or do we want to hear from them or do we want to leave it the way it is?
I go with what, Rob said.
I'd like to hear.
If they're
Yeah.
coming, they might as well talk on
Right.
everything they suggested.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to put an asterisk by that.
And the they is the chief of police and the town manager?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And then Department of Public Safety, disband Director of Public Safety. I'm a dead no on that. I don't care what anybody says, chief or anybody, it's a no. Mike, you're a no?
Yeah,
Bob, you're
I'm
a
in
no?
the minority in this one, but no, we don't even I'm against even bringing them in, but that's fine if folks want to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, I'm dead set against that.
I don't see the point
No,
of it.
they're on the disband.
Of what?
I don't see
That's what I'm asking about now.
This one.
I don't see a benefit in it, yeah.
In removing the Public Safety Director, the police chief has no oversight.
Okay.
I think that, and I don't want to speak for the chief, but I believe that that is in there because he's saying, if you look, he says, lift the chiefs to director level as they're already acting in that capacity. They just aren't, because they have that one layer, they're not directors because they've got that one layer. So he's saying disband director of public safety, lift the chiefs up to directors who report directly to the town manager. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's
So I
Totally,
think that's his
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to speak for him, but I haven't had any discussions with the chief about this, but I believe that's his point.
If he's coming in,
Oh, no, go ahead.
yeah, if he's coming in, you just want to talk about that one too, before we say.
Yep, well, again, it's gonna be the town manager too.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying, both of them, yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, but our current town manager, wasn't he formerly the director of public safety? When he had that job, did he report to the town manager?
Yes.
And that position is just technically eliminated.
Yes, when I think
Oh,
when.
yeah, he reported to Matt Copland.
Right, okay, I just wanted to, yeah.
Definitely.
So it was a little bit different, I mean, in that way. The only thing, I'll give you a little insight. My neighbor's a retired state police captain. And we used to talk about things, and he'd talk about, you get on an accident scene, that's pretty, any kind of accident, someone will terrible. But you get on the scene, and the way I look at, that's what I said before, when I look at these splits, I look at the police chief as being the person who's calling the shot. Because he's telling fire, and he's telling EMS, he's telling people, somebody's got to take charge of that scene, and it's not, town manager's not there. So that's why I kind of intimated before, I really think if you put them in hierarchy, the chief and the others are he's coordinating with the others to make it work right. That's my point.
Right, but we have three chiefs. We have three chiefs on scene.
Yeah, but those are responsibilities of their positions,
Yes.
you know? But if there is an issue, they report to the manager.
Yeah.
They're not gonna call up the manager and say, what should I do on the accident scene?
Yeah.
Right, but if there's butting heads on who's controlling the scene, then the public safety director.
I'd only had, my neighbor had been on the scene and sometimes had told some people to get off, you can go now, and they stayed. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I just want to go back to some of my earlier conversations, right? It is a 10-year document. I would like to give the town manager, the council, as much flexibility as they need to be able to effectively run the town as an organization. I do certainly sympathize with, it's annoying when there's an extra layer between me and the big boss and I'm doing jobs that maybe feel even more important than some of the people that directly report to that individual. But I don't, if somebody is not coordinating appropriately with other departments, I think we should be firing them. I don't think I want to write that in here, right? I have a legitimately a similar situation at work. I have an extra layer over my safety and training and operational trainings units because they are training 1,500 people in the field and it is a legitimate safety thing. So I've got another manager dedicated to them because it's important. Do I have to? No, but is my organization flexible enough to allow that? Yes, and I would like to make sure the town manager has that space and flexibility.
So, agree, and again, the director of public safety, our police department is pretty big. We can't deny that. And if we wanted to really do an in-depth look at the department, look for efficiencies, have somebody spend some time in the building, fresh eyes, that would be a public safety director appointed by the town manager. And it would be a full-time 3, 4, 6 month process that a town manager can't devote to that. So he could appoint a public safety director to go in and find out what's going on in the department and handle it. We're not there, we don't have that problem, but if you eliminate that position, how does the town manager effectively go in and manage the police department, because that's his job, and that's what concerns me about losing the position. So merging them all to department heads, They're acting like it now. What's the difference? And this, I agree with you, Laura, this is a step that it doesn't hurt. It costs us absolutely nothing right now because we're not in that position. But if we had to be, we could hire a professional retired captain or a chief from somewhere to go in and do an oversight. Thank God we don't have to in Enfield. So I'm okay leaving it the way it is right now without talking to anybody. Well, we're talking right now, Nikki,
No,
so,
that's fine. This-
you know, and is there consensus to take this off the table?
Yeah, I agree with you. I was looking at it as, I didn't see the point because it's not gonna change the way that anything works right now.
Right.
But if, like you're saying, if he wants to do something, then it would change it. So yeah, I'm good with leaving that part of it how it is now.
Right, the other key point, if he wants, we still gotta allocate the money to hire the individual.
Yeah.
So there's still that other check the council has, which is your elected body, that says, no, we can disagree, so no, sorry, we're not, you know? We're not gonna do it, we can't afford it.
Right.
Or maybe that's where we say, we don't like the direction you're going in, you are responsible to us, we need to have a further conversation on where this is going. So that protects you as well, that, again, there's another layer of protection where someone just can't appoint someone, they go do the job, they're not accountable, and that's when things start, I mean, when you see some of the craziness around the country, that's where a lot of that comes out of. Because they're not that direct accountability to, you know, to the town, the elected people, so, and that's the other thing to think about in this form of government. It gives you that other protection that the elected body, you know, again, is still in charge of where we want to see the town go.
Okay. Bob?
No, I'm just saying, I think that we should keep as is.
Keep as is. Is there consensus to keep those two as, go ahead,
I'm
John.
just trying to think this through a little bit, because I agree. I do agree that we should not eliminate the Director of Public Safety. What I'm trying to figure out is if we ask these two guys to come here, it's gonna be a little awkward if they suggested both of these. I'm just trying to think through how that conversation is gonna go. We want you here to talk about why you want to split into police, fire, and EMS, but we don't want you to talk about why you wanted to eliminate the Director of Public Safety. It just might be a little awkward.
Huh?
And that's okay?
You know,
I don't even want them to come in.
Oh,
I don't want them to come in either.
It is.
I thought on the first one,
No, both.
For both of them, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, okay, so.
So we're talking both, right? I don't need them to come in, it's up to you guys.
I'm gonna do two, I don't need.
All right.
I'm on I was on the
Yeah,
page.
the whole point of splitting them up is to do
Yeah.
director level, and it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I was on the page of saying,
Exactly.
I think I heard at least one of them go, I respect the guy right now. If it wasn't the chief of police, I do, I respect him. I'd like to hear him say why he wanted to do this. That's where my vote was as to why to bring him in. I think I'm still on that page.
I think I'd like to bring him, I mean, like, I think I'm gonna end up in the place where I am
Yeah,
right
me
now,
too.
which is not to change it, but
Yeah.
like, I would like to pay them the respect of inviting them, and honestly, if they say they don't have time or feel like it, whatever, like, I just
Right.
kind
All
of.
right, so there's 2 to bring them in. Anybody else to bring them in? 3 to bring them in. Anybody else to bring them in? And a show of hands of who wants to leave 10, both of them, the first 2, the way they are. All right, so they are staying the same.
So, no.
I never get my way. Well, just try to.
That wasn't political, that was all over the table, so.
So we're all my thoughts.
Department of Public Safety shall appoint and also may remove the animal control officer. Shift to be under the police department. What's it currently under?
It's under the Department of Public Safety.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Which seems odd.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All in favor of shifting that to the police department? Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't wanna, it's currently in the chief's budget. So it's already in the police department. And I gotta tell you, this is what I'm against, just because of the way what has happened with some folks in town who have gotten bitten by dogs, and I'm a dog lover myself, and I don't ever wanna have anything bad to happen to a dog, but again, because we're following state law and there's a lot, I mean, I'm okay with leaving it under the public safety director. So I'll be in a minority in this one just because I've been in enough of, some of these issues where it's hard for folks who've been attacked to be able to, to get some remedy here, I think. So, I don't know, it's not a big deal to me, but I'll stop talking.
I know, that's what I was gonna, go ahead. Sorry, I had like a little furry face, pardon the pun. I'm confused as to why it would not do well if it's under the police department,
Well,
if they're
yeah.
already budgeted.
At least I think if the
But
public
if it's
safety,
already there, then why would we list it
but if the
still under
public safety can have a say in if the person's not doing their job or whatever, I mean, like I said, for me, I'm okay with it. The way it is. I'm okay with leaving it the way it is. I guess that's my position.
It's currently under the police.
It is, it's in the police budget.
It's in their budget, but the person is managed by the public.
It's still managed by
safety
it still
director.
goes up through the police department, but the public safety director has some say in it.
Okay, so we do have consensus then to put it under the.
I'm up
police
against that, but that's fine,
department,
yep.
With the exception.
Yeah,
of
just
Michael.
want to
The
understand.
animal control officer's a police officer, right?
No,
They're not?
they don't have arrest powers.
They work under the police department.
Didn't know that.
Okay, so consensus is to shift to the police department. All right, moving onward to the next section, the Division of Police. States here that the chief of police shall be the executive officer. And that's just a change terminology to commanding. Thoughts on that? Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes? Michael, you're?
Yeah, good, yeah, this
Okay.
one's fine with me.
All right, Rob, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Just change, yeah, it's just
It's just wording.
terminology,
Words.
okay? Next, for the 10A, once again, the appointment and removal of the chief of police shall be subject to the provisions of the charter and of the general statutes as revised. But want to add, candidates who are residents of the town of Enfield are strongly preferred.
Great.
I'm just trying
Same as
to
the
see
town
what-
manager
Yeah.
situation, yeah.
Okay,
We're
we're,
chill with that.
everybody okay? with-
Again, this is one I'm gonna monitor. I don't see why we need to add it. We've had no issue hiring a very qualified chief of police that goes through a very detailed, there's a very detailed process they have to go through to get hired. And again, it'd be great if they lived in town, but I don't know, for me, I don't think this is needed.
Ken, we're on 10A, the second one, where, that it would be an addition of candidates who are residents of the town of Enfield are strongly preferred. We in favor of adding that or just keeping as is? Myself, I do not have an issue, with that,
You mean the addition?
with,
With
yeah.
the addition.
With the addition,
I don't
I've
think
been
it's
fr-
necessary, but I think it's nice. So that's all.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I don't think it should be. a
Yeah, again, for me, I just don't think it's
requirement within the
necessary.
charter.
I don't think it's necessary.
That they live in town.
I mean, even I would be great if they
Even-
did, but I don't think we need to add the language, because
even
again, it's a
put that-
very detailed, it's a very detailed process to be able to get to hire the chief.
Well, and I agree 100%, because I mean, in reality, when our current chief retires,
Right.
our next man in line lives right across the river.
Right.
And he has been in our town since he was a kid in the Explorers. So,
And that's part of the input that you have. If someone's living in Greenwich, for example, we're not gonna
Yeah.
hire him for the chief of police unless we get a guarantee that they're gonna move within the area, right? I mean, because then it doesn't make sense. So I'm just saying, for me, I just don't think it's necessary to add the language. Not against it, just say it's not
Yeah,
necessary.
I'm not in favor of adding any sort of language in here. We find candidates, we're not gonna have a candidate that's gonna live an hour and a half or an hour.
well, we could
They're-
say
they're
they
gonna
live a
be-
half hour within a half hour of
That's fine,
Enfield,
yeah.
Yeah.
which
I mean-
police officers have to.
Yeah, within it.
Or what about just a reasonable proximity? I don't like adding numbers into tenure documents, you know how I feel.
Well, then no number.
But I don't.
That means no number.
But that's in our, when we put out our job requirements, so I don't think it needs to be into
Yeah.
the charter, it needs to be in our.
Right, yeah,
Right.
It's
Yeah.
within the job description, it doesn't need to be in here.
yes.
So we're all in favor of removing 10A?
Yeah. All right, Ken, you're.
10A, Division of
Yes.
Police. Provided that no member of the division shall be suspended by the chief for more than 10 days without the approval of the Director of Public Safety. Adjust 10 to 30, remove the approval of the Director of Public Safety discussion regarding the removal of all references to discipline measures.
Okay, I could have been clearer there. I think that the suggestion was the first part. The discussion is because our very first meeting, we just briefly discussed them, and there was discussion regarding removing all references to discipline by you, the commissioners.
Right.
So I should have separated those two things.
Okay.
So the chief wants to be able to suspend 30 days without going to the public safety director, which is the town manager. I think employee, and this is a little tricky. Now, employees have their union to go through. Mike, or Bob, do you know if the captains, lieutenants, and sergeants are in the unions? Are they union employees too?
I don't believe so,
No,
no.
they are not.
Yeah.
Just the officers have their union, but upper management is not.
Right, so upper management, if there was a disagreement between a captain and the chief could suspend that man for 10 to 30 days and he has no recourse.
Yeah.
And I think if he had at least the right to go to the public safety director and plead his case, the public safety director could agree or disagree with the chief. That's another reason for having that body. That's how I feel about that. So, I mean, adjusting the 10 to 30 days, I still, 10 days is a long suspension. And I would leave it that he has the right to suspend up to 10 days. But anything over that, it should be brought forward to the public safety director.
I would say if we've determined we're keeping public safety director, I would feel comfortable with keeping the language as is. Especially because there's a financial component to this.
Right.
If we're suspending someone for 20 more days,
Mhm.
that's a significant financial authority we're providing the chief of police.
Or you could suspend them with pay for 30 days.
Well, that's
Straight leave.
That's
Yes.
what was gonna.
That's what I'm referring to.
Right.
So I'm fine with the language as is.
Yeah, I agree, I don't.
Leave it the way it is,
Yes.
consensus?
Yeah.
Rob?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, since there's very few employees that probably fall in that category, should it say something like the police chief in consultation with the public safety director? To move rather just solely on his own.
That's too vague, I think, to.
I mean, people gotta be able to manage their staff.
He's talking,
I
he's
think
talking
it's
about
good just how it is
suspend this
now.
guy here, tell the town manager who's the public safety director. I would think the chief would want that concurrence. Do you think I'm on the right ground to do something?
Our current chief,
Well,
I would agree with you 1,000%,
Well,
Phil.
any chief, it's a 10-year document.
Right,
I'm
but
saying.
some people get in a position of power
Well,
and
I've seen
they're
it.
not like our chief. And that's what makes me
That's
nervous.
scary.
That's very scary. All
And
right, so
we get
we're,
into-
But that's my point, Ken, though.
Discipline measures of that nature. It's not only, the chief of police, but our human resources
Right.
representative is involved
Yes,
in this too.
right,
You
I
know,
agree.
So there's extra layers, and then with that, then the town manager, they're all involved in it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's a good point, because the HR person, the chief of police, and the public safety town manager concurrently review the situation. Like you say, if you had a chief of police that authority.
Went a little rogue.
This allows him to do it. The way I see it, this allows him to just slap that discipline on someone.
10 days.
Concurrence.
10 days.
Right.
He wants to kick it up to 30.
Oh, no, I'd leave the 10.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Leave the language the way it
With the
is.
concurrence of the public safety director, not just the chief on his own.
He already has
And
it.
he has that.
It's already in there. So the manager would be already,
It's in
or
there
the
already.
public safety director.
But I would consider HR as well, because that's an important component.
If I understand your point, are you saying actually that you feel uncomfortable with the current limit of 10 days and you would prefer it to be less?
Not the days, I'm talking about the disciplinary action. The 10 or 30 days, 10 days is plenty to send a message, but I don't know for what would create a situation like that.
So you're saying the chief of police should never be able to suspend somebody on his own?
That's what I'm saying, he needs to consult
Yeah.
his boss or
I'm-
HR.
I'm sure, I'm confident what's happening today is HR is having a heavy hand over the top. I'm sure of it.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like he's acting rogue. If he started to, or he or she started to, I'm sure HR would be the control. I don't know if it needs to be the director of public safety. In this first window,
Right.
you know, I got no problem with the chief of police having some authority to be able to say, I'm suspending this person.
But I'm looking at the only ones he's really gonna be able to do it is the ones that aren't in the union. Unions have their own recourse. Through their
But if
agreements.
someone under him is, that's when the
It's a
public
captain,
safety, then
lieutenant.
they could be unemployed, right?
Right, well, that's also I mean, listen, like, that's what being in management is
Right.
also. Sorry if that's like
Yeah.
too harsh, like,
I'm
it's
just
the risk
looking-
you take when you get
Having worked in
responsibility.
Having worked in business and being a manager, I couldn't go in and just say, you know what, you're out of here for 10 days.
Unless you had,
Okay.
unless you had
I have
HR.
to go to my boss, I have to go to HR. It
There's
isn't a
documentation.
sole
Right, exactly.
decision.
Correct. I,
Manager.
But so, right, like, I'm okay with the 10-day limit. I mean, like, to your point, in thinking through this, like, could I technically go to a variety of my staff and like tell them to not come back for 10 days? Yeah, would I ever do that without talking to my boss? No, because he would fire me.
Right.
Like, he would tell me that that was a dumb choice to make by myself and that I'm being dumb. And since I'm not unionized, I would then just get fired.
right, see, I think the problem is we're looking at our particular chief, the most respectable
Right.
people out there. And it's sad because that's what we're judging this on, and we can't.
No.
We have to remove the person, and what if his replacement or whatever isn't that ethical? And that's why I think this is in here for the protections. Zach?
So I feel like it's on a spectrum, because I feel what Phil is saying is that we need to tighten it, and that even at 10 days, it should go for additional proof, because currently,
Somebody
that what
needs to
I'm-
review it.
because I feel like
Right.
where you're standing is you keep it as is, but what Phil's saying is that even at 10
Concurrent.
days for him, it's a concern at the current level that he has the unilateral. And what I would be curious to know is other departments, because police is considered a department, do they also have authority to suspend employees?
Yes.
They have these, so they don't have to go to the town manager?
Public Works can suspend employees that are not in the union. Remember, the union is a separate animal.
Yes.
There's a whole procedure to go through for that.
And so what is their limit for how many days they can be suspended for other
I'm
departments?
not sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
But
I
the
just-
10 days on here does say without, no more than 10 days, without the approval. Not with the approval.
Right.
Right.
That would.
and that's what their concern is.
Yeah.
We're giving one person power to do something without the approval. But again, these employees, they have the recourse. They could get Chris or the town manager or go to HR and challenge it. And union employees are going right to their, whatever you call them, shop
Their
store or
steward,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, procedure.
Anne Marie.
Representative.
I mean,
are there checks and balances for anyone that are in these departments? Obviously, we're talking about Division of Police, but in these other departments as well, that HR has processes in place for when you have disciplinary actions you need to take, that these are the steps you need to do. For instance, corporate America, you would need to have a conversation, you'd have to have a written conversation about that, you'd have to document that, you'd have to then go to HR, you would have then processes you have to follow before you can take disciplinary actions to the point of suspension or whatever that happens to be. My question is, does this imply that whoever is in charge of that individual could then just say, hey, you know what, Phil, you're out for 10 days and no recourse and no other, like, get blindsided? And I don't know if that's what that's inferring, that there's no other things that these folks have to follow first. And that's what I'm trying to understand.
So not necessarily speaking for the town, but I will say when there's also like laws, regulations, case law, right? Like if I worked for Phil and having not written down any single thing, like about what I've done wrong, if he said you're out for 10 days, any lawyer would be like, you can sue your boss, right? Like as soon as you don't have that written down, like or you don't have the evidence, like any lawyer will take that case. The state also has like some very strong labor laws in place, and not to mention, right, like I better be consulting my legal department if I'm somebody who's gonna put folks out like that, because then like if someone sues the town, I'm gonna be in that position, right? And I'm putting my own job out, right? Like I just don't think we're gonna hire like 10 days is fine with me, because like there are other laws, case laws and procedures that govern this, at least in my opinion. Like I will say, at least as a person who supervised a wide variety of appointed officials and people I could technically do this to, like smart people are still very careful, and if they're not careful, they shouldn't work here.
So 10 days in the chief's situation, he goes to a scene, and I'm doing a scenario. He has an officer that assaulted a citizen, okay? It's happened here in this town. The chief is immediately, you're relieved from duty for 10 days. During that 10 days, that gives the chief the 10 days to do the investigation, do all the necessary things that need to be put in play for a potential termination. Okay? Now, getting into what you're saying, Anne Marie, this town has so much paperwork, and it's still not enough because the state keeps changing it, the federal government keeps changing it. You know, I mean, you can absolutely catch somebody red-handed on camera, and they still have a right to a hearing before anything. And it's just like, are you kidding me? In the real world, you would be walked out the door right then and there. And so the 10 days is in a situation where, you know, if you have 100% insubordination or something, and they are a risk to themselves or others, they should have a right to immediately suspend them for 10 days and let the town's administration, whoever it is, deal with it. 30 days, if he can't produce a case strong enough in 10 days, well, I'm not giving you 30.
Just as a point of clarification. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Laura.
No. I'm too rambly tonight, too much caffeine. So I just want to, just in my head, I draw a distinction. Like when I say suspension, I mean without pay. When I say administrative leave, I mean out with pay. And so does this mean with pay or without pay here?
Means anything.
Because like, okay, I honestly, I don't care either way, but like typically that's what, you know, I do something bad at work. If I am a risk to other people at work while the investigation is being conducted, I'm out on paid administrative leave. When that report is done and reviewed, then like I get sat down with and say like, hey, Laura, because you misused your vehicle and like drove to 20 bars with your state car, like we're going to suspend you for 5 days. This has not happened. I don't have a state car. But like we're going to suspend you for 5 days, like without pay. When like if I would work out when to serve that then. And so like there is a difference for me there. I will say I am still okay with 10 days without pay, but there is a distinction to me, not that I think we need to really flesh out in here, because again, it's a big document, between like put someone out for an investigation and actually suspend them for disciplinary action. Those are just two different things in my head, just for context.
All right, so
Yeah.
we had consensus on this 15
Yeah.
minutes ago, so are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
10A, Division of Police, in accordance with the provision relating to the merit system, add, and as approved by the town manager. I agree with that.
Yep.
So in other words, he can promote, but the town manager has to agree. Again, this is a prevention for the good old boy club, you know.
I think that's in that same section, right?
Okay, yeah.
I think
Yes.
it's coming
Last-
after the, for no more than 30 days or removal shall be made except in accordance with the provisions related to the merit system and as approved by the town manager,
It's not a motion, then.
okay?
Yep.
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Right at the end.
Everybody's good leaving it?
Yeah.
Mike?
No,
I'm fine, yep.
so to add, yes.
Division of Emergency Medical Services, EMS, suspension by the director. Discussion regarding the removal of all references to discipline measures. And I really don't think the discipline measures should be within the charter of the town of Enfield, especially the way the laws change.
So EMS is written exactly, I think, like the ones we just discussed with the 10 and 10 days.
So, yeah, so that when Sheila put that discussion, she was referring to our discussion.
Your discussion saying you
Yes,
wanted
not
to
that-
discuss it further.
So we would just be modeling the same procedures we already have if we want to keep the language as is.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so we would just strike this.
You just, I get it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't.
No,
clear.
no, that's okay. Maybe if we do them in red next time or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're leaving that the way it is. Division of Emergency Management, move to be under the police.
So if we're keeping the public safety director, I think we should keep it under that.
I'm on like a very hard no. So I agree.
Oh, yeah, we where it currently is under,
Yep.
yeah, I agree.
Consensus?
We're good.
All right, thank you. Department of Libraries shall have the charge of the public libraries of the town. Add, shall have charge of the senior center recreation department and the public libraries of the town. Mike, were you, it was before you, right? Bob?
Yeah, we consolidated.
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it was
under that, said library director shall have charge of.
Right. Why did we move it to the library director?
This was actually a suggestion, this was a work group with town staff, council folks. We were kind of doing reorg when we had to, we got cut all that money. And it ended up, there's I hate to use the corporate word synergies, but there are synergies to do it, and it's worked out well.
Oh, he's done a great job with it.
I just don't know, again, this is where, I don't know if we want to actually add this specific language to the charter, because it may change where we want to move departments around for whatever reason, and
Right.
whatever gives us the flexibility, because I think it ended up working out really well, and you're right, it's take the individual out of it. If we actually specifically say it in the charter, and then say the next person doesn't work out, and they have no interest in being involved in the senior center, for example.
Is it in the charter?
We're gonna put ourselves in a 10-year situation where we might wanna move in a different direction in a few years.
But is his current job description in the charter? How many times does HR come to us and ask us to modify a job
I
description?
don't think his job description, no, it would be.
No, I think it was the point of, it says the library director shall have charge of the public libraries. It was to show what his
Right.
position really
It didn't mean he
is.
couldn't take more.
But
He just
I
didn't-
understand exactly what
Right.
you're saying, Mike.
It's an odd place right now.
I mean, right, like if somebody felt strongly, I'd be open to writing like into other relevant departments, but we also don't need to do that.
Right.
But if someone,
The library director's duties is under the
yeah,
town manager, whatever he says it is.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, you might be able to answer, under policy and procedures, isn't there a section that, you know, for each one of these departments that are in there to say what their responsibilities are? I don't have it in front of me, but.
I don't know if it gets to that detail, you might be right, but I think we leave it to the job. You're right, we went through those 2 years where everyone's job description got redone, pretty
You know,
much.
so,
All right, so everybody's okay to
Yeah.
remove that?
Not happen.
you know,
That's crazy, the library runs the senior center.
Yeah, they didn't, but now it does.
yeah.
Official bonds filed with the town clerk. Adjust to finance director to agree with the current procedures, so this is housekeeping, Sheila?
Yes.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Page 8, 3C, duties of the manager on the budget. For the last completed fiscal year, replace suggestion to include 7 years of actuals. Commissioners discussed 5 years of actuals. So we've already touched on this a little
I
bit.
brought
Sheila.
this one up.
Yes, yes.
So in the annual report that the town's gotta provide, all those actuals are there. But I think 7 years, even 5 years, I'd say 3 years actuals, the current budget and the proposed budget. At least it kind of gives you a sense of where you're coming from and where you're going. So right now, it drives me crazy when I just see a budget and a proposed budget and I don't see any actuals, because to me, the only real thing on the page is actuals. That's what's happening, or has happened. Then you throw into that what's gonna happen, and you get a little bit better sense of the document, but.
Well, in our budget book, it says budget and then it says actual.
Right,
It
that's
says
1 year
proposed
actual.
budget, right, and I'm right now, I wanna go back even farther than what the budget books are, because I want pre-COVID and I want now.
I agree, I actually like the stake in the ground was the last pre-COVID year, because I think at all levels of government, that we've not gotten back to that. I know inflation's come along, but when you started spending and then you never go back, you know, you need a discipline to kind of figure out.
Right, well, and I have residents questioning,
Right.
you know, the board did X
Right.
with employees and the town might have done the same thing. And I wasn't here in 20 and 21 and 22, so I don't have the budget books to verify. So I'm trying to round up budget books but if she's right, she's right. And, you know, we need to address it, but COVID's gone. And the only way we know what we were pre-COVID is to have those numbers.
Right.
And they're getting them for me. So that's why I think more information is always better.
Certainly brings up points to say, why is this going on? I got an explanation, you know? So budget to budget is just.
Yeah, I think the wording of that follows state statute for budgeting. Because I know I have to put a very large legal notice in the newspaper after budget of all of these items on here. But that doesn't mean that the town can't require more.
Yeah, I mean, the state
But I
budget
believe
goes
this-
that farther too, like it's. just-
I think we should do 7.
7 years.
I feel comfortable with 7 unless we want to go more. I see
7
7 and
gets-
5 on the paper.
You only got so much room.
And where would you insert that anyway? I
When
know
you-
it's under C, but.
Are you referring, where would it be inserted within the budget?
No.
No,
Within
what
the
language
charter.
specifically we're gonna,
Language.
would be changing?
Would it be right at the end stating that?
For the last, you would say, for instance, their last completed fiscal year and for 7 subsequent years.
Well, no, he wants actuals. So I'm okay with the 5-year actuals. But I understand what he's asking for because I'm doing the same thing and I'm 5 years. And in our current budget books, it doesn't go back 5 years. Right, and it's so hard
Yeah, it's hard
to know where we've come from and why we're where we are now. I mean, how many more employees did we hire? And, you know, how much did we spend in CIP and DPW 3 years ago?
Right.
How many cruisers were bought 4 years ago? And when we're sitting there trying to do it, we got 4 different books open. So I'm good with 5 years, and I think the budget book should reflect the same thing.
Yeah, the change in the wording, I think would be easy.
Yeah.
You would just say, for the last completed 5 fiscal years.
In the current budget and proposed budget.
So you'd want both town and board, right?
Yes, well, in here it says that the
Each
town manager
department.
directs the board as to the format. Although I actually,
This says each department, office, agency, activity, including the Board of Ed.
Right, but we're not currently getting that from the board of ed, that's all.
And we're not getting it from anybody.
And you want proposed and actual.
Well, I'm saying is you do get a year's budget of town.
Because I know I.
no, I
No,
don't.
I don't think,
want
no, I don't think anybody wants to propose.
Only
the past.
actuals, only the history. of the
Actuals for the last 5
So you're
years.
comfortable with 5 instead of
Plus
the
proposed
7 that
for
was
next year.
suggested?
Yeah, I said 7, I mean, the book has 10 in it,
That's
but,
a lot.
I mean, that's a lot of columns.
Like you said.
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta get some real estate on the page.
So what do you guys want to do? 5, 7, 10 is too much.
Fine.
I say
I'm like at 3.
5 years.
5 years.
5 years, all right. And then I definitely want to keep the board language in it, even though the last so many years they haven't followed it. But hopefully this year we're on the right path again.
Okay,
You good with it, Bob?
yes, I am.
Don't you agree? At budget
No.
time, this will be a lot easier.
Yes, to have 5 years of factual information in front of you, absolutely. So we'll get the Board of Ed in there also, even though we have not seen it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
At least we have something to fight with if it's in the charter. All right, so we're good. 3C is a yes.
Yay.
I haven't had this in a while. Got a lot of note there.
All right, so we're doing 5 years, not 7. Okay, duties of the council on the budget. Copies of said estimates to be made available for general distribution in the office of the town clerk at least 5 days prior to the aforementioned public hearing. Change to 10, suggestion to, is this what we discussed? Suggestion?
Yeah, that's what you wanted, I should be putting in red.
Suggestion to go to referenda for budgets.
Oh, that's, yeah. Because like where we talked, remember, when we decided to go for, the 7% referendum?
Yes.
We've got that we discussed under power initiative. We're
Right.
gonna need to move it all over to the budgeting
Right.
section. But,
So let's just, on that one there is,
but this is talking about the notice, having the budget books available. But I will caution you that every year when it comes about the 5 days before, I'm having to track down people and say, I need the budget books, because everyone's working on them up until the very last minute, because you all are also,
trying to get it done.
yes, you're doing your deliberations up until the last minute before the hearing. So it's a very tight, a difficult thing now. And that verbiage, I'm not suggesting you don't change it, but that verbiage mirrors statute.
The 5
The
days.
5 days mirrors statute. And it really is it's a scramble at that last.
I don't-
Can't take credit for this one.
I guess I don't understand. We have budget books, and there's boxes of them at the town manager's office while we're going through the whole budget deliberation.
But this is what you're deciding to present at the hearing. Are you presenting?
So are you giving them an actual updated budget book?
No. You mean bound?
Yeah,
No. It's what I get from finance. But there's lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
All the way up until that public hearing. So,
and even after.
right.
We didn't have a budget book a
Should-
couple of years
should-
ago, right? Before
What's
the
that?
public
Right.
hearing. Right.
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 So should this be a conversation with John?
Or do you want to leave it at 5?
Well, what about if, he did, what about if it's electronic?
Well, what you are given, I mean,
So meaning when the manager.
finance starts putting it up on that budget page as it's happening.
Right, so if the manager's presentation, let's just use, so say it's April 1st, the public hearing is April 26th. So that means by the 16th, it's electronically, right? Because I know even on the 1st, we don't necessarily have a budget book, right? It usually takes a little bit after that for his presentation or her presentation. I don't know, maybe if you could say electronically, so people can go on and look, and then then from a printed 5 days.
Right.
I don't know, so at least people, if people are that interested, most people like going online anyways, I think,
Right.
not everyone, but most.
No.
I don't know, it's just a suggestion but I agree, I don't know, just because at least, I know last 2 years, we wouldn't have met, this requirement would have been met, because we didn't get our budget book till I think it was like the week of the public hearing. Meeting, yeah.
That's the
Right.
same thing I was dealing with.
Right, I know, yeah, and that was my beef then, I'm like, well, we're technically violating the charter, yeah.
Right.
All set, Mike?
Yep.
Set.
So can I, to Mike's point, which I agree with, could we suggest language that electronic copies of said estimates to be made available for general distribution in the office of the town clerk 10 days before and physical copies 5 days before the aforementioned public hearing? Would that be?
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
So the thing that makes me nervous is you may be sending out misinformation because we may not be done. And if you give an electronic file out on the 10th and we make a change on the 6th day and they come to the public hearing, they have the wrong information. And that's like the Board of Education has already asked if we wanted budget books, what they're working with right now. And I said, no, because it's a flowing document.
Yeah.
And I
And
don't
we'd be
want.
giving people two different sets of information.
Right, the problem is not the
Because it's
printing,
for the
it's
public
accuracy.
hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
The budget book, not that you don't change things after the public hearing, you do. But this is the book that's gonna be presented at the public hearing.
Right, that's,
So you
isn't that
can't-
the manager's?
It has to be pretty solid
Be the
right
same
there.
thing.
But isn't it the manager's presentation, and because the board will make their vote soon, so that's already, we're gonna make changes to that. So isn't it what the manager presents is what is presented at the public hearing, not the changes that we're making in between there? I always thought it is when the manager makes their presentation, even though we're already meeting and making changes and doing, or we're suggesting changes, that presentation to the public hearing is what the manager presented to the council. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but that's always thought how it worked. It doesn't, I know it doesn't lay out specifically in the charter, but I always, because that night when he makes his presentation, he does a high level, here's the board.
Right, he
Right.
does
But
his
he's got his
presentation.
presentation to the council.
That is in theory what I think is supposed
He's
to
got
be.
his presentation to the council as far back as,
Usually we don't get it till the end of March or
But that's
April.
after,
March.
that's after our
So there's
deliberations. though.
definitely some.
Right, but we're not making any
changes from when
adjustments.
he- You know what I mean?
Remember, we're not
I
making-
just wanted to help Cheryl do the.
So the budget book we have, we're making changes as we go through it. And we have the big board, the physical budget book isn't getting changed till we pass the budget in May. So
Correct.
that initial budget book, I'm almost positive is what the manager presents to the council.
Correct.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, if that's the case, it's not gonna be what changes unless they've been paying attention to our budget deliberations. But it's what the manager presented in public, so that should be able to go online.
The first one is the proposed.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, that's what's discussed at the public hearing,
Yeah.
not what we're doing in between.
Unless
So this-
they're sitting here like this.
Right, unless they're at every meeting, right, they're gonna say,
Or
hey,
maybe, we televise the budget meetings,
I think it's probably a good idea.
you know?
I have a copy of the 23 schedule.
Yeah.
23-24 budget schedule. And the submission of the town manager's proposed budget to the town council was April 17th.
Right.
By charter, it's 75 days prior to the end of the fiscal year. And the budget hearing was May 1st.
Right, I remember we didn't have, if I remember correctly, we got that budget book like the day before, if I remember, it was close. So if we get it, the council, the public didn't get it.
Right.
So I think technically we were, at that point, we violated because we weren't doing the 5 days. So that's what I'm saying, I think,
No, that's the manager's proposed, not the public hearing.
right, but what I'm saying, so when the public comes on whatever that date is, in April or early May, what they're gonna comment on is what the manager presented.
But see, what I'm saying is that I don't know how much earlier we could do it, because the town manager's proposed budget to the council was April 17th. Advertising the public hearing
Okay.
and the summary of the proposed budget in 23 was April 25. So how, do you know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
not a lot of
25
wiggle room
days.
there. There's not a lot of wiggle room.
No.
So
That's only
what
8
year
days.
was, what
That's
year was
only
that?
8 days. This is the 23-24 budget.
We only deliberated 20 days total?
No,
I think we went every day there, didn't we, for?
We went every day, and I think we went
Yeah.
a weekend.
Right.
you did, it was quick.
That's nuts.
Well, no, we met every day, and we met over the weekend.
Council
so-
I
adopted the
wasn't
budget on the
done. That was
15th.
before I
May
got
15th
back
is
on.
when you adopted the
So,
budget.
so I think, I mean, the only way the timing works, if we get the budget by the first meeting in April, which has historically been the plan, I mean.
Well, Chris has already
But
said,
the, by charter, it's not due until.
No, I know, that's,
Yeah.
so maybe we change
I see
that.
what you're saying, yeah.
Maybe that, so then it flows within.
And the only reason I had this, because I was
Right.
trying to play with dates to
Yeah.
figure out if we had to go to
Yeah, we're
referendum
doing
that
it
year, how we.
Because I think, it's probably, I'm saying, I think we should move it up, because the board does their budget, you know, they pass it, and then it comes to us, and then, you know, we get pounded for the next 3 months. And, but then the manager doesn't pass his or her budget till, say, April, there's a gap, and then it's just a full court press to get everything done by May, whatever the date in May is. So maybe that's the thing, we move it up, maybe it's April 1st, you have to have your budget. You know, so if we have a council meeting on April 3rd, or just say the first meeting in April, I don't know, maybe we, you know, first Monday, first town council meeting in April.
Well, I mean, the way it's written now, it's a certain amount of days
Right.
prior to, so maybe we keep that same verbiage and adjust the
Right.
days prior to.
I think we have to if you're gonna if you wanna suggest getting it out even more directly to the public, you know.
well, if we're following state statute
I
now,
think we need
their
John.
language,
Good.
we're following what the state says is legal, so I'm not willing to change it. I mean, look at the state.
I'm not,
We don't even know what we're getting from them when we pass our budget.
Right.
And, you know, that's all Laura's fault. You work for the
It is.
state.
I mean, some of these.
I've got it.
Have a motion to extend the meeting?
Oh, yeah, all
I think
right.
some of the due dates the town has the ability to change only because in towns that I've worked with that are strictly a referendum town,
Point of
they do the
order
budgets
for
a
1
lot
second.
more.
I'll entertain a motion to extend for 15 minutes till 8:45. All in favor? Thank you. Sorry, Sheila.
The towns that I've worked in that go to referendum every year, their due dates are earlier.
That's what I thought, right,
So
you
we
can
have
move it
the
up.
ability, I
Yeah.
believe, without violating state statute to adjust those. But I think we
So-
would need to talk with the finance director and get some input.
So, going along those lines of towns that do have the referendum, what are the actual dates that they actually present the budgets in March? Do they present to the public in March?
Yeah, I don't have it
Might be
with
some-
me, but I might.
imagine
There
it
is,
has to be in March.
I've seen several towns who approve their budgets by the end of March, early April, and
Right.
they're not, all this May activity is done, they're done with their budget and move on.
You know, I'd like to see us maybe move towards, okay, well, our Board of Ed, you know, is setting their budget already right now. And here we are, almost a month and a half later, then we start deliberating, you
Right.
know? Or our budget is presented. I would be in favor of moving it up, as long as the departments and everybody would be
I would add,
willing to move forward on that to get.
Well,
my hands up.
again, they don't have a choice. They just have to start sooner, Bob.
Well, no, I get that, but I'm just saying, now.
Well, we're
Yeah.
gonna have to, if we're going, if the public agrees to this new charter with the 7% automatic trigger for referendum, that only works if we move this up. So
Well,
they don't have a choice. They have to follow the charter as much as we as council members do. So is that where you?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
That's
say. We
the
just need
point.
to take into consideration that we have, again, if that gets approved, we did put out that 7% could go to referendum, and that we need to be cognizant of those dates then we put in place to be able to adjust for the fact that we may have to go to a referendum and all, so.
Okay, Nikki, anything? You've been
No,
awful
no,
quiet
no,
tonight.
I'm just taking everything in.
All right, so on this, because this is pretty big, why don't we end tonight on where we are right now, pick it back up next Thursday, and ask that Sheila, if you can look at the dates and the numbers, with the automatic trigger at 7% going to referendum, what do you think a timeline would be acceptable for you to get your legal notices, get it to the ballot, this and that, and then have that for us next Thursday? And again, I know town staff may not like it if they gotta move 30 days, but it is,
You think about it, it takes away that gap.
there's no
I
doubt.
mean, you know what I mean? There is a gap and it builds itself
I
up.
never understood why,
Right.
I don't know why we're not in budget deliberations right now.
Agree.
We should be starting at 0
Right.
and working up, so.
I agree.
And we've never done it that way, it's neither party's side, it's just not the way this town's done it. So let's
No, I
give,
agree.
force us to start early and,
Right.
I'm in agreement with
Yeah.
that all the way.
all right.
And
so-
again, whoever, good suggestion too, by the way, 10 days, whoever made it, good suggestion.
That was fine.
Very good. No, good
It's just a
suggestion.
quick turnaround for the next
Discussion.
weekend.
But that's the thing, is the
Next
point is to
week.
try to get, you want people engaged, you gotta give them a chance to be engaged, right?
Did I miss the beginning?
What?
Yeah.
I have to notify all the different departments and Board of Finance, departments, of everything that has during your council meetings. So after a council meeting, I'm scrambling for a couple of days.
Point of order, one final question.
I just had one final question. So when we move back our budget earlier in the year, when it's currently at the end of May, the state's own deliberations in the appropriations committee have largely been settled. So how does that impact our budgeting process when, similar to the Board of Ed's starting their budget having no idea how the state's gonna handle it? Whereas the town, when they're in deliberations, normally we have a much clearer idea from the state of Connecticut how much money we're receiving. Actually, as a matter of fact, I remember during one council meeting, the town manager messaged at that very moment, a decision made by the state that had a significant impact on the budget.
It's a good faith guess, Zach. That's, I mean, you can ask Mike, Bob, it's just the way we have to budget. We don't know, Carol Hall was texting us from the state, telling us, this is what you're getting for ECS that day while we were voting on the budget. So,
If we have the same thing that happened last year happen with moving everything up, that's gonna make things worse.
That was-
it is, but the state, we're voting a budget before them anyways.
Yeah.
So whether we do it a month before, or it doesn't matter, it's a wing and a prayer. Because then the state can say yes, 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 and the governor won't sign it.
And when we roll with the punches, remember, state budget, they can do that 2-year. So that second year, you're using that estimate that is given to us for the ECSC funding, and you're rolling the figure, well, is it gonna be the same amount? Is it gonna be less, or is it gonna be more?
Right.
So,
That's a good suggestion, like I said, good suggestion. Conversation, we should be talking about trying to be more.
I think you gotta go with the assumption of something material changing, you gotta get back together and
Did we
make
do
your
a
adjustments.
motion to
yeah.
adjourn?
Not yet,
Yes.
but
Go
we're about.
ahead.
I hear a motion to adjourn?
second.
All in favor? All right, thank you, everyone, and remember, next Thursday.
Yes.
Correct.